Good afternoon, guests, and it's been a great day so far. Minister, thank you so much for joining us today and for your contribution today and for what you do every other day. Thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. As you heard, Doorway to Dignity works with like-minded organizations. This is one of our founding principles to pave the way forward for positive change and holistic support for individuals, families, and communities in need. And one of the organizations that we work for and we work with is the Shelter Suit Foundation South Africa, on which I'll be elaborating shortly. In 2020, Doorway to Dignity ran a temporary shelter during lockdown for 8 months. And the reason I mention this at this point is that despite having closed the shelter 3 years ago, we continue to receive an average of 5 calls a day on people looking for shelter. And what is most concerning about the calls that I get is that we get, like I say, 5 a day. 80% of those calls are from women desperately trying to get out of the situation that they are in as a result of gender-based violence. And it's a very grim picture. Poverty levels have surged dramatically in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, leading to unprecedented need for support in one way or another, especially in the area of food insecurity. And I'm sure those of you who have read the latest quarterly results, which were published earlier this year, the Labour Survey stats, which published earlier this month, will share my concern. Unemployment is currently sitting at 31.9% in general, 43.5% amongst the youth. According to a recent survey done by Wits University in April, 1 in 5 South Africans experience hunger daily. That's 20% of the population of South Africa that goes hungry every day. And sadly, this situation often contributes to the perpetration of gender-based violence. Women leave their homes not because they want to, because they feel compelled to escape for their own sake and their children's safety and survival. More often than not, they and their children leave with nothing but the clothes on their back. And as a society and community that cares, we have a responsibility to provide protection to those in need. But how do we go about doing this? And because addressing gender-based violence is a multifaceted challenge and demands our collective response and attention and innovative solutions. It really does, because there's no one-size-fits-all solution to gender-based violence and supporting its survivors. It requires a case-by-case approach and demands careful consideration and substantial resources. This we know. The first presidential summit on gender-based violence and femicide in 2018 concluded with the signing of a declaration in which government, business, labor, civil society would collaborate to conceptualize, drive, and implement concrete measures to eradicate gender-based violence and femicide. One of the measures frequently and subsequently outlined in the National Strategic Plan is the creation of more economic opportunities for women who are vulnerable to abuse because of poverty. One of the most effective and substantial ways to achieve this is through asset-based community development, sometimes referred to as the ABCD approach. ABCD, or asset-based community development, is a grassroots approach to strengthening communities. So by identifying and leveraging existing local assets, rather than focusing on a community's needs or deficiencies. Asset-based community development recognizes the assets, the skills, the knowledge, the capacities, the resources, the experiences, and enthusiasm that is already present in a community as strengths that can be built upon. The ABCD approach aims to empower individuals and communities by helping them to recognize their own strengths, sharing those assets, and working actively together to generate solutions. By identifying and harnessing the assets already available within a community, ABCD facilitates community-driven development and social innovation. The focus is on utilizing and mobilizing the human potential within a community to drive positive change from the bottom up. And at this juncture, I would like to show you all a video produced by the Shelter Suit SA Foundation. Although the project showcased is a shelter bag, and for those of you who haven't seen a shelter bag, there's one right there. I'm here all week. They will be at the table afterwards. I'll show you one. It contains a mattress, a pillow. It's a sleeping bag on steroids. Specifically designed for the South African content. I'm not wearing one because I'm bored. I'm wearing one because I want to show it off. So the shelter bag was designed specifically for homeless people. And however, the organization, the Shelter Suit SA, has assisted gender-based violence victims and survivors. By collaborating with the community, government, business, and other like-minded organizations and stakeholders, the Shelter Bag project can go a long way in achieving the goal of creating more economic opportunities. When Lynn Brandon Pod, Render, MD of the Shelter Suit SA Foundation, contacted me at Doorway Dignity about becoming a distribution partner for Shelter Bag in Johannesburg, I jumped at the opportunity. It took me about a split second to say yes. But through trial and error, we have discovered that simply handing out the shelter bag to the guys who are sleeping on the streets is not always viable. And we needed to find a way more sustainable solution and approach. So we subsequently changed our approach to distribution, opting rather to distribute shelter bags to folk with whom we could establish ongoing relationships. And that's super important, relationship building. And the other approach to distribution relates to disaster management. And disasters in a case like this would include flooding, communities affected by shack fires, not if they're going to be affected by shack fires, but when they are affected by shack fires, unfortunately. And indeed, it would be really, really advisable for anyone to have those shelter bags on hand in the case of disasters like that, fires and so on. But gender-based violence too should be treated with the urgency, seriousness of a natural disaster, because it emphasizes the need for an immediate, coordinated, and comprehensive response. The third approach, which we looked at, asset-based community development, which I discussed earlier on, can work in tandem with a disaster management approach, because each approach complements one another. So what we are proposing today is to extend that project to reach into the life of survivors of gender-based violence for as long as they desire our support. So at this point you might be thinking, well, how is this going to work? Well, the first thing we would do is through consultation and discussion, we would establish a group of women who want to. And guys, I cannot emphasize this part of it enough. Women who want to be part of the program, because it's about building self-worth from the word go. The group would then receive practical hands-on training on how to manufacture shelter bags. And this is where we can all be involved. By sponsoring the costs of the shelter bag project, which would be 850 Rand per participant per month, You would be helping to cover the costs of the initial materials and training. Each participant would receive a shelter bag for their own use at the start of the project. They will then receive ongoing training and support as well as a monthly stipend. We anticipate working with each group of participants for a minimum period of a year, which will be reviewed after that period and then looked at, depending on whether the women would like to get involved, continue, whatever the case is. The project would start in the Western Cape, because that's where currently everything is ready, but our ultimate goal is to extend it to all provinces. Once their training is complete, the participants will then have the option to join the Shelter Suit SA Foundation, where they will either continue to manufacture bags, as you saw some of the women who had done it there, or come on board as trainers themselves. Of the 10 principles guiding the implementation of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, 6 principles are addressed by the Shelter Bag Project. The Shelter Bag Project also covers certain aspects of Pillar 5, which is economic empowerment. To summarize, Pillar 5 looks at accelerating initiatives of unequal economic and social position. One of the central principles of asset-based community development is collaborating with community members for as long as is needed, and then reinvesting in the community. Likewise, Pillar 5 looks at developing, implementing, supporting, and monitoring programs for equitable job creation, representation, and ownership by women. It may also include establishing public-private partnerships to facilitate economic opportunities for women leaving abusive relationships. As Lynn stated in the video, as it currently stands, the Shelter Suit SA Foundation is contributing to 12 of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, as a country, public and private sector organizations can advance the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals by integrating initiatives such as the Shelter Bag Project into their corporate social investment programs. Everyone here and attending online today can be part of this project in one way or another. Awareness is vital. Awareness is key. Identification of participants is another. Your skills, your knowledge, your immediate circle of influence. If you say, I cannot help in any way, I bet you know someone who does. So then tell them. Then so that they can tell someone else. Because of that would go a very, very long way into assisting with the success of the Shelter Bag Project. And at this point, some of you might be wondering, well, how could this make any difference to addressing gender-based violence? Indeed, it is only one project. And many of you are already involved in worthwhile initiatives, and I really encourage you to continue to do so. Yes, the problem of gender-based violence is immense, immeasurable. And yes, we face many obstacles, some of them insurmountable in the short term. However, I honestly believe, I really, really do, that if we can make a difference in one life, we've made a difference in the world of that person. And therefore, we've made a difference in the world. As a result, we have given that one person dignity, and we have shown them that they matter and that they have value. The Shelter Bag will not only meet the guidelines, vision, and principles in the fight against gender-based violence, but it will offer warmth, a feeling of worth, dignity, safety, security, and a hope of a brighter future. The project's core message is simply this: your worth is not dictated by your circumstances. I thank you very much.